Hey class, let's blast off into another space science lesson. To recap, so far we have looked into the size and scale of space of our solar system, especially the Earth, the Moon, and the Sun, and how they have different sizes and different distances from each other. We talked about how the Moon is smaller than the Earth, how the sun is much, much more massive than the Earth. In fact, a couple million Earths could fit into the sun. How the moon is pretty far away, but not nearly as far as the sun. Um, so you might be asking, but wait a minute. If the sun is so big, then why does it look the same as the moon? Of course, you should never directly look into the sun, but to us, they appear to be relatively the same size. So if the moon's closer and the sun's super, super far away, well, why on earth would they look the same size then? Well, they must be the same size. And how do things like this happen? A total solar eclipse. When maybe you remember a few years ago when there was a solar eclipse um, happening, the moon went in front of the sun and caused a shadow. It caused it to be almost like nighttime as the moon moved right in front of the sun. Now, how does this happen? How can it be that they are about the same size with a super distant large sun and an up close moon? Um, it's a pretty cool phenomenon to think about that they're about the same size. So must be aliens, right? Must be because aliens, of course. No, it's not about aliens. It's well, let's go back to this video. Oops. I don't know if it's gonna let me play. There we go. So how did he do that? How did he make a totally normal looking image, and then all of a sudden your perspective changed? It's called forced perspective. This chair with him where he's at, the miniature chair, it looks like a normal sized chair compared to him because the mini chair is much much closer to the camera than him. That's like the moon. The moon is much much smaller than the sun, but it's a lot closer to our perspective. And then the picture, tiny little picture, was a tiny little painting, but it looks like a normal sized painting in the background. And the two cups of coffee or tea, one of them is a regular sized, and then the other one's ginormous. When you watch him walk out of there, it's the way we see things at a distance can often be deceiving, and that is the case with the moon and the sun. So it's all about perspective, yo. To us, the sun and the moon appear the same size because the sun is super huge and super far away. The moon is much smaller, but much closer to the earth and the sun. Okay, you might need to pause the video now and add that to your document for today's assignment, because that is pretty much the question right there, is why do the sun and the moon appear to be the same size? Now, this is where we're also kind of lucky that the sun and the moon appear to be the same size. If we lived on Mars, for instance, it has two very small moons that used to be asteroids, actually, that got caught in the gravitational pull of Mars. And Mars, once again, is further away from the sun than us. Um, they don't appear to be about the same size. So if we had maybe a smaller moon, it might not be able to create eclipses like it does. So it's all about perspective and our forced perspective when we're looking at something. So if someone tells you it's aliens, it's not aliens. Here is another picture illustrating this idea of perspective, right? This is a picture an artist makes, but it's based on science, right? This isn't a real picture because you would have to be in a spacecraft further than the moon. But this image is showing the sun in the distance, the earth, and then the moon right here in the foreground. And if you were to look across them, if they were lined up like that, um, you know, they appear the same size, but that sun is millions of miles away from where this imaginary photo would be taken. It's just kind of a cool way to picture this phenomena like that. And now here's examples of perspective that we use in everyday life. Where should I go? Oh no, it went away. There we go. Famous one would be the Leaning Tower of Pisa. So I believe Taryn, when she went to Italy, has a similar picture. A lot of people do this. See, it looks like he is a giant and he's kicking over the Leaning Tower of Pisa. But he's just much, much closer to the camera while the tower is in the background. You can do the same thing with the Eiffel Tower if you're far away, or right here in Seattle. Just take a drive to Seattle, and it looks like he's grabbing the Space Needle like a torch or something with his hand, and the Space Needle in the background. This is called forced perspective photography, and you can do all kinds of tricks, and it doesn't have to be a famous landmark like this. You can do it with anything, and that leads us to our next challenge. My challenge to you is to go make your own perspective photos. So there's a link in the assignment to this video, which goes through some different ways you can do it. A lot of people can use toys, are really good examples. If you have like a stuffed animal or like a toy, like in this case, toy dinosaur, something, you can set up your camera with the object much closer to it and you far away. You can get help with this, parent or sibling. If you need to go outside, you can do that. I mean, there's all sorts of cool things you can do with it. So watch this video, and my challenge to you is to make your own perspective photos and share those. Put those on the class stream, share them with me. Maybe we can share them at one of our Zoom meetings. So that's my challenge to you. All right, guys, have fun, and I'll see you next time.